Barbara for that introduction, and happy birthday.
Yes, sir.
Her birthday was on the 11th.
Yes.
And she already told me she doesn't mind me telling you all how old she is.
How young she is.
She's 85.
All right.
She should be honored for having lived that long and still have her mind intact.
That's right.
So thank you. Happy birthday, my sister. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all.
We love you, Tony.
I love y'all more.
Hey.
I was born in Chicago 74 years ago, next month. But reality is, as I reflect on my life, I was reborn here in D.C. D.C. is my life. You know, D.C. is my heart. And as I was sitting in the audience listening to all these incredible sisters come up, sing and talk and perform, Brother Ken said, after my English spoke, how you gonna follow that? Well, easy. I'm from the west side of Chicago. And I was born in a household of strong black women. So I ain't scared. Strong black women, they infused me with life. So I have been energized, sitting in my seat, listening to these powerful sisters, and I'm so appreciative that they saw fit to invite me to give the keynote for their 33rd anniversary. And this is special. It's special because I want to quote from the book of Amos Wilson, or as Brother Kaba says, Saint Amos Wilson. Amos gave a speech. It was one of his last speeches in New York, and it's a speech he gave shortly before he passed. And there was a statement in that speech that has stayed with me, that has stayed on my heart, in my heart. And it bubbles up from time to time. And that statement is that an act does not end at the end of its occurrence, but continues to move down through the ages, influencing generation after generation after generation. 1992 was a pivotal year in Washington, D.C., because acts were set in motion in 1992 that influenced thousands throughout the DMV and hundreds of thousands throughout the country and all around the world. Brother Lati from Baltimore. Hey, brother. Good to see you. Good to see you. And so, what happened in 1992? 1992, a group of sisters, strong black sisters, came together and created Adasa, created an organization, created an institution, which created ripples throughout time and space, and it touched the hearts and souls of hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. And they wisely, in setting up this institution, they wisely chose Dr. John Henrik Clarke as the elder advisor. In 1992, I wrote that book that I think you were talking about, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. And I wisely asked John Henrik Clarke to write the introduction to that book. So when I think about it, I think about the fact that 33 years later, ADACI is still going strong and getting stronger. And Nile Valley Contributions is still a perennial bestseller. Why? I want to think that these two institutions and organizations and publications were set in motion because of the spirit that was infused in them by the spirit of John Henrik Clarke. And so if we understand Dr. Clarke's spirit, it's important to understand the spirit that was placed in his heart and his mind when he was 17 years old. Dr. Clarke was 17 years old when he read Arthur Schomburg's essay, The Negro Digs Up His Past, which Schomburg talked about who we were before our world was turned upside down, and what it is we must do in order to uncover the truth that will empower us to do everything that we are supposed to do. So we must dig up our past. We must become the most passionate, the most enthusiastic antiquarian of them all. Why? Because we have the longest history of anybody on this planet. Our history has been minimized. It's been forgotten. It's been erased. But when we dig it up, those memories, the restoration of those memories, those ancestral memories, will provide us with the fuel to do what it is that we were born here on earth to do. So Clarke was influenced, so influenced by these words of Arthur Schomburg that he jumped on the freight train, left the South, went to Chicago for a minute, made his way into Harlem, and then went to meet Schomburg. And in his youthful arrogance, told Schomburg, I want you to teach me everything you know, right here, right now, at this moment. And Schomburg wisely looked at this young boy, 18-year-old boy, and said, son, read and study your enemy. Read and study who you were before you made contact with your enemy. Read and study how your enemy has moved around the world, disturbing the essence of humanity. And once you understand all of that, then you come back and talk to me. And we can have a conversation about what we should do with that knowledge. Dr. Clarke listened, and he was transformed. And as a result of his transformation, he transformed the lives of millions of people around the planet. And that does not end at the end of its occurrence, but continues to move down through the ages, influencing generation after generation after generation. Arthur Schomburg, in that publication, The New Negro, collaborated with other artists, other scholars, painters, dancers, musicians. And that publication, written by Alain Locke, that publication was the inspiration for the Harlem Renaissance. 100 years ago, the Harlem Renaissance, Harlem, the black capital of the world, the spirit of African people was reborn in that community, and that spirit transformed the consciousness of tens of millions of people all around the world for over 100 years. So I want us to really understand what it means when we talk about spirit. I want us to really understand what it means when we talk about ancestors. I was listening to PFW this morning before I came over here, and of course, they were commemorating Father's Day and asking people to call in and tell their stories about their fathers. And I heard several people call in and reference their father, may he rest in peace, blah, 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 blah. And I thought about it, I said, no, that's not right. The fathers who are ancestors, those who are ancestors, they should not rest in peace. They should be busy inspiring us. They should be busy working through us. Why? Because we are their representatives on earth. We continue their legacy. So they should be fully employed. They should not be resting. We should not be resting. Why? Because the world needs that spirit. The world needs that power. The world needs that consciousness right now more than ever. I've lived a long time. I've seen a lot of things. I was a kid when Emmett Till was murdered. I was a teenager when Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were murdered. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, but I've never seen the madness that we're on the verge of experiencing right now. So we're going to need some ancestral assistance. We're going to need to download some ancestral memories. We're going to need some ancestral power right now to help us make it through what is coming. And when I talk about what is coming, I'm not saying this to make you all afraid or angry. I'm talking about the reality of karma. I'm talking about reciprocity. You can't do evil in the world without evil coming back to visit you. And evil has been done. It's still being done right now. And there's a price that's going to have to be paid for all of that evil. And so what I want us to understand, what I want us to root ourselves in, is to realize that we ain't got to be afraid. Come on. What's happening to them is going to happen to them because they deserve it. We don't have to get caught up in that nonsense because we have it within us. The power, the protection, the possibility to transcend all of this and build a new world. That is who we are. That is who we always have been. So it's important for us to center ourselves in who we really are and not focus our attention on the pain that our oppressor has subjected us to. It's important to remember the Maafa. Yes, it's important to remember the Maafa, but remember this. If the story of African people were a book of 1,000 pages, the Maafa begins on page 996, and it's only 2 pages long. So let us focus our attention on the first 995 pages. Let us focus our attention on 8,000 years of African success and excellence. That's memory, ancestral memory, that has empowered us to survive the worst atrocities the human beings on this planet have ever faced. We are still here because our ancestors were still there working through us. And that's something you don't give up. That's something you don't minimize if you truly understand what it is and how it works and how it shows up in your life time after time after time after time again. It's important to know that. It's important to understand that. It's important to cultivate that because that's going to be what will get us through the difficult times that are coming. See, because we're not living just for ourselves. I mean, if you really understand this thing, right? If you really understand this thing, we're not just living for ourselves, we are living for our future selves. Huh? It ain't just about this life, it's about all the lives that you have lived that have prepared you for all the lives you're going to live. And then tapping into that endless stream of consciousness and realizing what Donny Hathaway told us years ago, that everything is everything. Everything is happening right now. So what do you want to happen? What do you want to happen? What you want to happen already happened a long time ago. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. All you have to do is to tap into those ancestral memories that you're carrying inside of us, download those memories into your consciousness, and then just tweak it a little bit if necessary to do it better than it ever has been done before. That then establishes the blueprint for all of those who will come after you, how to do it, right? How to improve on what has been done. That's who we are. That's what we have done longer and better than anyone else on this planet. That's what we must remember. That's what we must know. That's what we must act on because that's our superpower. Understand that. That is our superpower. And when we dwell in that which is inherently ours, we draw down to us all the power that we need to do anything that's required. All right? So think about this. I want to put things into context. And I want us to understand what's happening right before our very eyes. Because oftentimes we get distracted by things that are going on. And you all well know that there are a lot of distractions going on all around us.
Don't watch the news.
You have to learn how to separate yourself from those distractions because they're designed to dispirit you, to connect you from your essence of who you are and make you afraid. What the Bible did Gregory tell us, fearing God can't occupy the same space. Fear is the absence of God. So know and understand where your strength comes. Harvest that strength by cultivating those memories and then use those memories to become the vessel through which your ancestors will speak and do their best work. So, y'all know I like the media, I like films, I like good films, right? Because the media is the most powerful form of mental manipulation ever created. Can influence hundreds of millions of people all around the world at the same time in just a few minutes. Because what you see, what you hear, settles within your consciousness, changes your DNA, and reverberates throughout every cell in your body. It's a powerful form of mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, psychological manipulation. It's not to be played with. And when we see someone doing it, using these tools and doing them well, we must acknowledge them and understand who they are, and more importantly, understand whose ancestors are working through them. And one of the best examples that I can give us of someone who is embodying, allowing themselves to be used as a tool for ancestors is this young 34-year-old brother by the name of Ryan Coogler. All right? If you all haven't seen Sinners, shame on you.
That's right.
Right? That film is one of the most transformative films I've ever seen in my life. And that juke joint scene will go down in history as one of the most powerful scenes in any motion picture in film history. So I don't want us to sleep on that scene. So I want to spend a minute talking about the messages embedded in that scene so that we can tap into that energy and that consciousness that has been put out there in the universe and ultimately amplify that power so that we can do the things that the ancestors worked through this young man to be accomplished. Right? Does that make sense? Yes. So I want you all to use your imagination. Use your imagination and visualize that scene. But Sammy's in the juke joint. He's been invited by Delta Slim to sing that song. And before he sings the song, Delta Slim says, tell him who you are and where you're from. Who your people are, right? And he tells the story and then he says, I wrote this song for my father. And the song is, I lied to you. He had to lie to his father because his father had been socialized to believe that this guitar was an instrument of evil, when in fact it was an instrument of transformation. It was an instrument of transformation. So he sang the song, but it's the hook. It's the hook in that song, it's the chorus in that song that is the essence of that whole scene. Where people got sidetracked when they heard it was a film about vampires. They took it literally. And they thought it was a horror film. It ain't a horror film. It's a film about life and the horrors of life. About the vampires who walk in the daylight, who suck our blood, suck our money, suck our energy, drain us of everything that makes us who we are. And that as we saw in the film, those evil spirits cannot just come into your presence. They cannot just come into your presence. They have to be invited in. They have to be invited in. So Sammy, when he's singing, Sammy was an instrument for ancestral downloads, for ancestral transformation. He sings the hook of that song and he says, somebody take me in your arms tonight. He's calling on the ancestors to come down and take him in their arms tonight. And that energy, that vibration goes into the heavens and pulls those ancestors down, and then he saw magic, cinematic magic. As an elder griot came out of the crowd playing his instrument, right? And that elder griot was an ancestor of Sammy. So the ability to sing transformative songs and tell stories about your ancestors was inherited in Sammy's DNA. That's who he was. That ancestor was him a long time ago. So he called that ancestor into the present moment and came there into the present moment to infuse itself into the spirit of this young man. And then we saw a guitarist from the future, somebody from Pioneer Funkadelic, came up next to him and started playing that guitar. That was Sammy in the future. So we saw the past, the present, and the future all existing simultaneously. That is the essence of what this spiritual message is all about. There is no death. We are part of a continuum. And once that spirit came down, once his ancestral spirit came down and expressed itself in that space, then that spirit moved all around the juke joint, infusing spirit into every single person there. You saw the breakdancer come in. You saw the MC come in. The camera panned around. You saw a brother playing the djembe drum, calling down more ancestors. You saw 3 blues musicians playing the guitar. The spirit went into the kitchen where the sisters were. Sisters dancing around the table, sisters twerking, got into the spirit got into the Chinese woman, Grace. And Grace started jamming. Walked down the highway to get her man so she could dance with her man. Walked past 2 brothers who were crip walking. Went and grabbed her husband, and behind her husband was his ancestor, the Monkey King, hovering over him. Grabbed her husband's, put out her hand, grabbed her husband, he threw down the cards, went to dance with his wife, and as they walked out of that room, he saw her ancestor, the water sleeve dancer, go out before them. So Sammy's spirit called into that space, a spirit that opened the portal to the ancestor realm so that everybody in that space could draw down their ancestors, so that they can be healed, so that they can be connected to a timeless past and be free. Understand how the ancestors have used this brilliant young man to create opportunities to introduce African people to an aspect of our spiritual technology. Spiritual tech is what it is, older than time itself. And he's done that through every single one of his films. So this ain't a fluke. This is something that he was born to do. So what we are witnessing in this young man, a young man who's only made 5 films, and he's the most successful black writer and director and producer in film history. He's made over $2.5 billion. Ain't nobody else ever done that before, so don't sleep on this, right? Be aware of what is happening in real time so that you can make a conscious choice to align yourself to what is happening right now in times where it is sorely needed. So we can't sleep on this. And Sister Ivy, thank you so much for bringing in the memory of Brother I, because that brother has transformed the lives of so many people. And just 2 months ago, we opened the Clarke Enhanced History Project on the 2nd floor of the Thurgood Marshall Center, where we created an exhibit to amplify some of the shortcomings in the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And I can say that because I know that it's an incredible edifice. There was the byproduct of African people 102 years ago wanting to create a space where they can honor their ancestors. So it took their selfless dedication to help manifest that building. And now that it's there, that building is more than a building, right? If you understand the architecture, if you understand the symbolism that's embedded in that building, it's more than just the exhibits. My initial shortcoming with the museum was the fact that it begins our story 5 stories underground. begins our story in an environment which replicates the Maafa. And as I first went into that museum a month after it opened, stood in that space and just watched how people were being impacted by that physical space. I saw elderly women crying, full of tears. I saw elderly black men angry. And I realized these souls have never been taught about the Maafa. So they are having a visceral experience to being exposed to the horrors of the Maafa for the first time. That is causing irreparable psychological and spiritual harm. That's not the intent, but that is what's happening. And something needed to be done to kind of undo that, or at least prepare people for that space. So the John Henry Clarke and Ancestry Project was conceived in order to create a space where we can tell our people and show our people who we were thousands of years before our world was turned upside down. So that you're centered, so that you're grounded, and when you go into that space, you now have context for what we've gone through and how we've survived, but you also have an understanding that within inside of us is something that will allow us to thrive in the future that we create. We don't have to beg anybody for anything. All we have to do is to know who we are, mine those precious memories, and then bring into our consciousness and into the future that which we will into creation. Because that's what we've always done. We've always done it longer and better than anybody else on the planet. And the historical record is there to document that. That's what they want to erase. That's what they want to ban. That's what they want to make illegal. Anything that will empower us frightens them. So all I say is let's frighten the hell out of them. Let's empower them. So I had the pleasure, I had the honor of working with my sister Free, one of the baddest artists and designers. And we created some images that are designed to unlock ancestral memories. And the cornerstone of the Clarke exhibit is a 25-foot-long mural that documents 8,000 years of African success and excellence. It takes us through the Maafa, and it ends at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And what you see in that mural are ancestors rising up out of that building, right? And to the extreme right, we see Brother Ah playing a trumpet like Gabriel, calling the ancestors up, telling them we got work for you to do, and these are the bodies that you're going to work through. So like, I mean, it's a nice image, it's a nice concept, but it's rooted in something real. It's rooted in something that's architecturally and spiritually grounded. Think about that building. That building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I ain't using none of my notes, man. I don't even know why I wrote it. That building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, was designed by an African Ghanaian architect. And he says in the literature that the inspiration for the design of the exterior of the building, that bronze-colored lattice work, which is referred to as the corona, that image was inspired by a Yoruba shrine post in which there's a carving, and brother, you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a carving of a priest riding on a horse, and atop the priest are 3 inverted triangles. And the top triangle has a hole cut in the center, which I know from my time in the Nile Valley, that is a spirit door. That is the portal into the ancestor realm. And an inverted triangle is a symbol that represents the descent of spirit into matter, right? And so you see 3 of these triangles representing the descent of spiritual energy, mental energy, and physical energy into the consciousness of this priest. And it's his job now to use this information and then to share it among the populations in the various villages where he will come and deliver his message. So that was the inspiration for the exterior of this building, which means then, if the inspiration was a caryatid from a Yoruba shrine house, a place where ancestors dwell, it means that this building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, is not just a museum, it is a shrine house. And inside of this building are objects that were possessed, that were owned, that were used by various people of African ancestry through their struggle here in this country. So you have the shawl of Harriet Tubman. You have the Bible of Nat Turner. You have a slave auction block. You have a slave house. You have manacles that enslaved African men, women, and children wore at one time. You have pieces of slave ships in that space. So everything that anyone owned, anyone touched, anyone used, has their spirit in it. So you have thousands of objects inside of this shrine house. And all that is required of those who come inside of this museum is to come in with the right consciousness. Come in with the right consciousness. Know that you're in a shrine house. Know that you're in the presence of ancestors. And then open your arms and have them come down and hold you, possess you, use you, so that when you leave that space, you can leave with your mind transformed and clarity about how you should be spending the rest of your life. That's the process. That's why that building is there. So there are some devils, call them who they are, call them what they are, who want to take out, remove some of the artifacts in that shrine house. And if they had their way, they would tear it down. If they had their way. But whatever they do is too late. This thing has already been set in motion. These connections with ancestors have already been established. And nothing that they do can break these connections. So it's important that we understand what time it is. It's important that we understand who we are. It's important that we minimize, that we reject fear. Because these are times of fearlessness. Right? These are times when we should stand in the full glory and power of who we are. And the ancestors should not be resting. They should be working through us. And we should be calling them 24/7. They should be openly employed. That's why they exist. So the beauty of Adasa, the beauty of telling our story, the beauty of documenting our journey, the beauty of understanding and cherishing ancestral memories and knowing that remembering is a healing process, is essential for us to do the work that we are all supposed to be doing at this particular point in time in history. It's no accident, it's no coincidence that we are all here living at this particular point in time in history. What happens over the course of the next 4 or 5 years will determine the course of the next 400 or 500 years. It's not a time to go to sleep, not a time to be afraid. This is the time that we chose to be born in, because we are a continuation of all of those ancestors whose names we evoke every time we do libation. We ain't just calling the name just to call the name. We're calling the name because we are making a commitment to them that we're ready for them to use us to transform the world. That's what that relationship is all about. So Adasa, for 33 years, have shown us who we are, has helped to make us proud of our connection to ancestors, so that we can grow out of the limitations that have been imposed upon us by those agents of those who enslaved us, miseducated us, and made us worship gods who are not our own. It's important to ground ourselves in our own realities. You got a car or something you need to move? Make an announcement. Make the announcement, and then I'm almost done.
Okay, they're getting ready to tow a car. It's a Toyota 97786C from Maryland. You need to move the car urgently. Is it two of them? Two of them? Okay, there's another one GK4206 DC Tesla. If you can move your car as soon as possible, right away, actually, they're getting ready to tow them. All right.
All right. Thank you, Yuri. So, is that wrap up? No, I want to be respectful of the time because you have a program and folks have other things to do. We want to use our time judiciously, right? So as I wrap up, I don't want you all to sleep on this moment. I don't want you to miss out on opportunities that are waiting for you because as Dr. Welsing often said, we're all born with a cosmic assignment. Before we came into this physical world from the spiritual world, we made a commitment to do something in this lifetime that would pave the way for us in future lifetimes. So what we're doing now, what we say now, what we think now, will pay dividends in the lifetimes to come. That's how this thing works. So we're here to do something special that will reap benefits for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great-great-grandchildren. And if we do our job right, then at some point in time, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, or 100,000 years from now, when our descendants gather, they will pour libation and they will call our names because we did the things that we were supposed to do in order to free the world again. That's how this process works. So, as Baba mentioned during his libation, everyone should have an altar in your home. ADACI has a wonderful book that talks about how to set up an altar. Every one of us should have a sacred space in our home where we commune with our ancestors on the regular. We ask them to protect our household, and we go there to seek guidance and information for the things that we must do on the daily. So, there are things that we should be doing right now in order to prepare ourselves for what's coming. And the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And actually, the future belongs to those who prepare for it yesterday, right? If you really understand the process. So, Adasa has done its job. And now it's time for each and every one of us to do our job. To open our hearts, to open our minds, to invite the ancestors into our lives so that we can live the best lives possible and transform the world. So your participation in this activity today, your participation in the RiverWalk in a few minutes from now, you're taking this experience home and sharing it with your family members, your friends, your co-workers. It's how we can awaken the ancestral spirits among others within our community so that our armies, our armed forces are marshaled and ready for action. Because the devil is doing their thing right down the street on Constitution Avenue. Right? The devil is creating a world of destruction that is going to destroy them and everybody in close proximity to them. So we don't have to worry about them. All we need to do is focus our attention on is who we are and what it is we need to do in order to create a world that our children's children's children will inherit. So as St. Amos Wilson said, an act is not in at the end of its occurrence, but continues to move down through the ages, influencing generation by generation by generation by generation by generation. So right now, know this, sisters and brothers. Everything that you think from this moment on, everything that you say from this moment on, everything that you do from this moment on creates ripples of time and space, moves 150 years into the future, and has the capacity to influence the next 7 generations. That's power. Don't abuse that power. Use it well and help us transform the world and make it a safe haven for human beings once again. I say.